All right, the graffiti lesson has always been one of my favorite get to know you kind of lessons. It helps me remember names, to be perfectly honest, but it's so much fun. And I do have some artists that we can look at, a graffiti artist, and some resources here, but this is what we're going to look at for this unit is graffiti. Now, when we talk about lettering, most of us can do, a block letter or such, but let's learn how to do it so that it's perfectly neat if we don't already know how. So for this assignment, you're going to need your sketchbook, ruler, pencil, and of course an eraser. Tip here, draw lightly, because once you're finished erasing, then you're going to use a Sharpie. So draw lightly. Some of this is going to be erased. Get your supplies together, and then we'll come back together and get started on setting up our paper. Okay, I've decided to turn my paper horizontal. Either way is fine, but I just did this because I thought maybe I could line my ruler up better, and that's the best way to make sure that my line is straight. To take the edge of my ruler and just to make sure it's flush with the edge of that. And I'm just gonna lightly draw a line. Whoop, that's lightly. You can barely see that, I'm sure. Then I'm gonna come down a little bit. I don't want to try to get it in between here. I want, let's see, just for some of you, you need a measurement. Let's do about 2 inches down. I'm gonna just line it up. That's not science, it's just, just a guess. And I'm going to draw another line lightly across. So I probably have room for one more down here. I'm not even measuring, that's not the important part here, straight across. Now, I may not get all my alphabet on here, but that's where I'm gonna start. So what I want for you to do is I want for you to use what I call kindergarten letters. We're going to work with uppercase right now for this part of the assignment. And I want for you to write your ABCs, and I want for you to leave some spacing between. In other words, I don't want A, B, C, and I don't want them that size. But I do think that remembering to draw lightly is the way that when you erase, it is gone. All right, so I am going to speed this up, but I'm going to do my ABCs kindergarten style. All right, so perfection in letters is not the key for this exercise, but neatness is. So I have my letters nice and large. I drew them lightly, but probably not as light as you would want to, but I need for you to be able to see it. So I'm gonna do a combination of block and bubble on this so that you can see both styles without having to sit through 2 videos. There are videos on YouTube that explain this beautifully. So if we're doing block style or bubble style, basically we're outlining. We're outlining that kindergarten letter. So we would just go around it. And do not forget the inside. And that's it. That's how simple this is. Each letter holds its own challenge. So I'm going to work through these and share them with you. For the letter B, we would still outline, and then don't forget your centers. All right, and let's do a C together. voila, there you have your letter S. The next step to do, even though it's practice, is to outline and erase so that you can actually see that drawing lightly is what makes for a neat project. You don't want those lines showing through on your name. All right, I just outlined a few because I wanted to show you a couple of things. Look at the letter A. I want to make sure that I can erase my inside lines, and you'd never know they were there. Now the H, where I had some more narrow, and I just neatened it up. I always talk about neaten up your work when you outline, so I can come back, and whereas it was a little thin here or a little thick here, when I went back with my Sharpie, I could fix those areas. Now the M, I decided not to do the flat right here, so I left that for you to see. And the N, as I looked at it, I decided I didn't want to do the points. I wanted to do the flat edges, and I did it lightly so I can erase, and you would never know that I changed my mind. So I'll finish outlining this, but I want to go ahead and show you some of the resources. This is one of them. I can't draw until I practice. I love these books. And they started once again with kindergarten letters, is what I call them. And then they show you step by step how to do the outlining beautifully. Then they show you that you would erase those original lines. And then for this exercise, they actually turned them into something funny. So they did either a name or a word. Some of the other resources that we have is graffiti. So once again, it started out with kindergarten letters. Then they did some bubbling around it, which it's written in steps. And then they erased those inside lines, and they put little highlights on there. That's what those little lines are called. Then they did what's called a drop shadow to make it stand out. Now, you can do some more things to it. They drew, and I love this because this doesn't quite look finished, but when they outline it all together, like if they were going to cut it out, that really adds to it. Take it a step further and outline that so that it turns into be something like a frame. So that's a really neat way to do graffiti name also, with drop shadows. The other way to take it on is to start with, this is tagging. Start with your kindergarten letters, and they didn't outline all of it. They outlined parts of it that were going to remain. Then they erased, they call them sticks. I call it kindergarten letters. They erased the sticks, the lines. And then they added interesting shapes to the tips. So everywhere they did not fill in the letter with outlining, they came back and put something very unusual, which makes it tagging style. And then they outlined it and put drop shadows in there to really make it stand out like it's coming off the paper. So I'm going to get to work on, maybe I'll do 3 different styles with my name, and we'll see how they look. You get to choose what you want to do. Once you complete the exercise, which is all of your letters, then I want you to decide what you're going to do with your letters. Are you just going to simply do a graffiti name like this, make it creative? Are you going to do some type of graffiti tagging? What are you going to do with it? And we'll come back together and see how they look. Quick break in right here. Now, I wrote these really close together. So let's see what's going to happen when I go in to do block letters here. So I quickly want to point out, that's why it's blown up large, that over here was overlapping nicely, and over here started to be spaced apart. So when I outlined, I just moved things over a little bit. I didn't want to keep it exactly where it was. And since I drew lightly, I can do that. Now, one thing that I learned from this is my name has several straight up and down letters with no curves or diagonals. So maybe overlapping is not the best thing for me to do. So that's my first effort. I'll erase it, and then I'm going to see what type of name I want to try to do next. But this was an important lesson for me. Really hard to overlap the I, E, L, and even the D because of the shape of those letters. So let me move on to my next style. So I decided to do the name Calvin. That's my grandson's name. And once again, when I got over here, I had to readjust my outline with the Sharpie to make it flow better. But luckily, I drew lightly, so that's not a problem. Now, I did want to mention that I did use a ruler, and that's why all of my letters are lined up nicely. I see so many students not do that, and then their letters are all different sizes, they're crooked. So if you just take a minute and line that up, draw a line lightly, then your letters are all going to be on the same level. So let me think about my next one. All right, so I thought I'd try something different, and I have a long way to go. I found this, which will also be a resource for you, where it just takes your kindergarten and just takes it even to a whole different place. So I've got a lot of work to do on this. I learned a lot from my experiment. Number one, my letters weren't far enough apart. Number two, I did not really take my time on figuring this out. So this was a great experiment, and I'm going to do this one again on my next page. But that was an excellent, need to work on that. That didn't work. Lettering right there. So here are my three styles, and I've decided, since I tried three, that I'm going to work on this one. I don't know what name I'm going to do because maybe I don't want to do my name or what word I'm going to do, but I'm definitely going to do this. I like the way they came back and added some details. Mine was just too cramped in that little area to get that done. So anyway, there are some resources for you for your lettering assignment. Do your name, preferably so I can get to know you. Do it any style you want to. It's not done until it's outlined and colored. Then it's ready to turn in. So here's where I am. I wanted to make sure we touched base. I used my ruler. I drew my line. I did my kindergarten letters. I went back and examined what they did. Everywhere there was a point, they did a little swirly, and then they outlined it just like we did all the other letters. And of course I had some different letters. I had a T and I had an O. They were all different. So I had to decide what I wanted to do, not what they did, but what will I do. So I'm pleased, and now I need to color this. I'm going to use colored pencils that are available, and I'm going to finish up my project. So you have your assignment, kindergarten letters, block and bubble, and then go ahead and create your name or words. Do it at least 3 times. Try different ways, just like you saw my examples I didn't like and what I did like, and then you'll be ready to begin with your project that's going to be the one you're graded on. So enjoy, take your time. This is not a rushing matter. Take your time. I cannot wait to see these. All right, so I have finished my fancy lettering project, and I opted for that last resource that just had some nonsensical elements to it, and I used markers on mine because I had those at home from the box store in town. And I want you to take your time, do your best. Now this took me a couple of days, so I don't expect these to be done in one class sitting. So have fun, enjoy, and I can't wait to see them.